In 2020, over half of Google searches were voice searches, and it's thought that there may now be more so-called digital assistants, like Amazon's Alexa, than people on the planet. It's been reported that some spend more time talking to Alexa than to their spouse. Children become attached to their toy robots that speak back to them, whilst sex robots are becoming increasingly more lifelike, to the extent that someone even married one. In this study series, Masters or Slaves, AI and the Future of Humanity, we're exploring how AI is impacting what it means to be a human being made in God's likeness, and what we need to do to protect our ability to be faithful image bearers so that we can be masters rather than slaves of AI. In our last session, we began our journey to examine 6 key areas where AI potentially threatens our ability to faithfully reflect God's image in us. An image that is reflected through our soul and covers the reasoning and decision-making abilities of our minds and our ability to love. We thought about how AI could be stealing our minds, that is, our ability to reason and make decisions, and how we should be careful also to protect what we give up to AI systems to avoid diminishing the reflection of God's image in us. In this session, Love or Deep Fake, we'll look at how we need to protect our relationships and authentic love. Key aspects of what we discovered in an earlier session makes us special people made in God's likeness. Most of us are probably familiar with digital assistants in the form of Amazon's Alexa, Apple's Siri, or Google's Home, along with a number of others. It's very convenient to be able to turn down the lights or have your favorite song played from the comfort of your armchair without fumbling for the remote down the back of the chair. These systems are all based on AI algorithms, and they continue to improve as they learn from vast amounts of our spoken data. And companies are spending considerable sums on their development. Evidence is mounting, though, that these devices have a dark side. They're shaping our relationships with people. UNESCO have reported that too many reflect a gender stereotype of the subservient female assistant calmly dealing with every query and responding empathetically according to your mood. They don't even mind being shouted at or being spoken to rudely, although in response to concern from parents, some can now be set to praise children for polite language. Apart from shaping our relationships, digital assistants are also shaping how we obtain news and knowledge, but also how we perceive it. These devices usually produce a single response to a command or question rather than a list of options for us to consider. Even then, these search results are loaded with the top rank being occupied by whoever pays the most. Yet for some of these devices, they're becoming the only source of news and knowledge, even though they can be biased. They also damage our ability to seek out and authenticate the facts, and perhaps even become to some an unchallengeable oracle. On our website, mastersorslaves.com, you can download a handout that you can use to help evaluate your own use of digital assistants and think about how they might be impacting you. Of course, we have a choice whether we have a digital assistant in our own home, but the desire of the manufacturers is to get you hooked into an even easier way to shop, interact on social media, or carry out a search. As we saw in our first session, it's all about engagement for profit. Theirs, of course, not ours. The trend is now towards service providers like our bank or utilities, even government departments, offering a human-like chatbot.
I'd love to help you with general questions about banking. What's on your mind? I can explain how to open a new account. Are you an ANZ customer already?
Here, we no longer have a choice of whether we use these digital humans if we have a query. They've become ever more lifelike, appearing on screen as real people with appropriate facial expressions that respond to your query. The argument that the developers and the companies that want to use them present is that people want the human touch when they interact with an organization. But hasn't God made us for real, authentic relationships with others that he has created in his image, not with something made in our image? The Bible tells us much about how we should relate to others, and it's this that should be the basis for how our relationships should be shaped, not by an artifact programmed in our image and with toxic algorithms designed to engage, often not for altruistic reasons. The Bible tells us that we are to display the fruits of the Spirit, fruits such as love, kindness, and self-control, that are fundamental to developing authentic relationships and to loving our neighbor as ourselves. This is part of reflecting the image of God who has created us for relationship with himself and with others. Children's toys are being replaced by robot companions, though whilst not looking lifelike, still keep the child hooked, allowing them to teach and train them and express feelings. They end up nurturing these artifacts, and as Professor Sherry Turkle at MIT has commented, we nurture what we love. Research is showing that these toys are changing children's perception of their world and their relationship with other children and adults. As a child with a toy robot called Cosmo was heard to say, "Cosmo's no way our pet, and he's not our robot, he's our child." Young minds and emotions are easily shaped, and this is a worrying trend for parents concerned about their children's development. Once again, our concern should be to engage the development of authentic relationships with other children and with adults. Real relationships are messy because we're fallen people, prone to selfishness and anger. Yet we need to help children to navigate these relationships, to grow and mature in them, so that they are fitted to deal with the messy relationships of adult life, learning to listen, responding with love, kindness, self-control, and genuine empathy. In the adult world, we find robots now being used as care assistants. This can be as diverse as a robot lifting patients into a chair or providing companionship for dementia sufferers. What might these devices do to our responsibility for care of our elders and the sick? There are no easy answers here, but we can at least be asking the questions: what is gained? What is lost? What is this doing for us, but what is it doing to us? Why are we using these robots rather than human caregiving or ourselves? AI is also being used to create what are called deep fake representations of other people, perhaps the most famous being the fake UK Queen's speech at Christmas in 2020.
For nearly 70 years, I have kept a tradition of speaking to you at Christmas.
These same types of algorithms are also being used to recreate animated representations of loved ones who have died, trained on photos and recordings of them. But at the bleakest end of the spectrum of digital humans, is a multi-billion-dollar sex industry where sex robots are becoming increasingly lifelike, even to the touch, and are able to hold a simulated conversation as well as perform to the owner's demands. With these and other robot artifacts, they create an illusion of companionship, but without genuine friendship. As people made in the image of God to love our neighbour, it should concern us that we can form an emotional bond with an artifact that we have made, feeling that we owe it some ethical obligation or even rights. Digital assistants like Alexa can be very convenient, but we can become so driven by our obsession with technology and our thirst for convenience that not only do our relationships suffer, but we begin to lose our privacy and freedom, as we shall discover in our next session on convenience or freedom, protecting our freedom and privacy.